Aye, shepherd's pie, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for a walk and a talk. Going to be battling a couple of things today. I'm going to be battling the sun, but I'll try and not get glare on the camera. And I'm going to be battling the new Filipino vlogging laws, because obviously I can't film any unsuspecting Filipinos. So probably going to keep the camera on my ugly mug for the majority of the video, which I apologise for, because no one wants to see me. You want to see the beautiful sunshine, but it is beyond my control. Now, the subject of the walk and talk today is something that I find baffling and frustrating, pretty much in equal parts. But before we talk about it, I'm going to issue a trigger warning, because I am going to say some things which some might construe as not being particularly positive about the Philippines or life in the Philippines. And don't intend it to be that way. I'm not saying anything negative about the Philippines. I'm going to say something negative about the service providers in the Philippines. But I have no doubt I will be accused of being a whinging pom. Well, I'm quite happy with that accolade. But I will also get some comments saying, if you don't like the Philippines, you should leave. Well, I do like the Philippines, but there are some negative aspects of the Philippines. But to me, as I have said many times, the positives far outweigh the negatives. But I am going to talk about negatives from time to time. I am going to highlight the negatives, because that's what I do. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you will know that I talk about the positive aspects of the Philippines. I talk about the negative aspects of the Philippines. I talk about the positive, negative of Thailand. I talk about pretty much everything. Cicadas are very loud today, but there you go. So anyway, to those snowflakes out there who are going to get triggered and are going to suggest that if I don't like it, leave. Well, hello. I have a suggestion to you. If you don't like it, don't watch the video. Follow your own logic, because I'm happy here. I don't want to leave. If you're not happy watching the videos, don't watch them. Another thing that's about to frustrate me, that woman just there, she went by happy, smiling, waving. She wanted to be on the video. You know what I mean? Most of the people you meet along here be very happy to be on the vlog. But there you go. The new regulations or the new guidelines are what they are. So anyway, without any further ado, let's talk about the subject in hand. Service providers in the Philippines. Service here is dreadful. The expression, the customer is always right, which a lot of us in the West have grown up with that concept, is not a thing over here. It really isn't. And when I say I find it baffling and irritating in equal parts, I find it baffling because over 30% of the country's GDP is through services. The place is full of call centres who deal with complaints and queries. And I think I've said before on the channel, I used to use hotels.com a lot when I was doing a lot of travelling. And they were great. I was a gold member, so I could, if I had any issues, I could talk directly to their customer service people. And they were one of the few companies that I used when I was in England. They had a call centre in the Philippines. And they were great. They were fantastic. They were so much better than the Indian call centres that a lot of other companies used. And it got me thinking many times in Thailand, I'd come to the Philippines and open up a call centre, because they were just so good. I was blown away with the level of the service. English was fantastic, and it was just a pleasant experience. So when I came to the Philippines, I was expecting it to be like that. I was expecting the service to be fantastic everywhere you went, bars, restaurants, hotels, etc. And it's not. But I've talked about that before. It is what it is. You come to get used to it. I quite enjoy the fact that the service isn't polished in the bars and the restaurants that over here now, because you're used to it and you laugh about it. And even though the customer service isn't perfect in a lot of establishments, it's still fun. You know, you chuckle at the incompetence, and you can have a laugh with the staff when there are cock-ups. You know, so I don't have a problem with that anymore. I've got used to it, quite like it that way. But that is not what I'm talking about today when I'm complaining about customer service. I'm talking about the service providers, the big companies over here. Because the way they treat us as customers, and yeah, I know I'm not living here, I know I'm not a Filipino, but I am a customer and I am paying for a service. And when I make these videos, a lot of the things I say, it doesn't particularly bother me. I can get around the issues. But your average Filipino can't. The average Filipino on an average salary, etc., doesn't have the options I have. So, and I'm in a relationship with a Filipino. She's got family and friends. So a lot of the things that irritate me, it's not just for me, it's the fact that I don't like the way that Filipinos are treated by, for example, in this case, the service providers. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And I think I have a right to an opinion. Can't vote over here. Okay, I get all that. It's not my country. But I can still have an opinion. And we can talk about it. And again, if you don't like it, well, tough titty. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. That's all I'll say to you. Anyway, I think I've laboured that point enough. Yes, service is a real issue here. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that a lot of the big service providers here treat their customers on what's verging as disdain. It's appalling. Now, the reason I'm making this video, I'll give you a classic example why it's bothered me. And you can say I'm whinging. I don't care. I actually had quite a good weekend regardless, so it's not a negative. It's kind of the principle of the thing. But a couple of weeks ago, it was week before last, there was a brownout scheduled. A brownout. The power was going to be off for 12 hours on Saturday. Now, we've done this to death with the brownouts. You know, I know you can have generators. I know there are ways around it. I personally think the utility providers should invest, and I think there is the money in the Philippines to improve. I know others will say it's really poor, they can't, etc, etc. Not actually arguing today about the brownouts and whether we should have them or not. My point is, there was a brownout scheduled. It was announced. It was supposed to be for 12 hours between 6 and 6 on a Saturday. So I saw that. Well, Ellen showed it to me. So we made arrangements around that brownout. So I booked a hotel. Ellen decided to take the day off work and go home and visit her family. So it was all sorted. Same week, we got a message from the, I suppose you could call him our caretaker. I mean, the guy that owns our place that we rent from, he's Canadian, but there's a Filipino guy who looks after us, supposedly, you know, when he's away. And he messaged us to say the water was going to be disconnected in our area, and he didn't know how long for. But I'm glad he gave us the heads up. I don't think it was out of concern, to be honest. I think the last time the water went off, it blew our pump because we didn't know it was off. So I think it was more he wanted to warn us, so we didn't have the pump going without water in it. But anyway, the point is, he warned us. And because he warned us, it wasn't an issue for us. Because we conserved a bit of water. And because we conserved water for the 2 or 3 days it was off, our tank was still full. We never ran out of water. If he hadn't told us, then we would have carried on with our usual use, and we might have had a problem. But the point is that if he hadn't have told us, we wouldn't have known. There was no notification. No one in the area was told. The only reason he knew about it is because he works in the town hall. His office is next to the water people. Now we get paid, we pay our bill, we get a paper bill stuck to our gate once a month. They stick it to the gate, they tell you what the bill is, you go down the town hall and you pay it. I went to pay the water bill yesterday. There are 7 desks in a row, they're not really counters. And you go in and you get told to sit by one of them and you pay your bill. When I went in there yesterday, you had 7 desks. And for each person sitting at a desk, you had another person talking to them about whatever. And then you had 4 or 5 people sat around in the background. What I'm getting at is, they have a lot of staff here. Everywhere you go, supermarkets have got 10 times as many staff. I'm not exaggerating, as you would in a Western supermarket. You know, you go to town halls or whatever, or, you know, into government buildings in the UK, I'm sure it's the same in America. The counters will be staffed by 1 person if they're even staffed. You won't have like 3 or 4 people for one thing. But that's fine, they're all laughing and joking. My point is, when you have that many people, when there is clearly a surplus in manpower, hello, see another one, hello, waved at the camera, and I'm not filming him because of the bloody new regulations. Anyway, there you go. Why can't someone come round and put a sticker on the gate saying that the water's going to be off on so and so date? Would that be so difficult? Would that be so tough? I get it when there's a brownout and it goes off, you can't ignore it, you can't, you know, warn people if it's an accident or a water pipe burst or whatever. But when it's scheduled works, I think there's very few countries in the world, apart from 3rd world countries, and I don't consider the Philippines to be a 3rd world country. I consider it to be an emerging economy. How hard would it be to notify someone about scheduled works? If you're not prepared to do that, in my book, that shows you don't have any respect for your customers. And it's wrong, in my humble opinion. But they didn't notify us. We did not know when we hadn't had the phone call, we wouldn't have known. And of course, when it goes off, your immediate thoughts are, how long will it be off for? And in the end, I had to work it out myself. I had to go out and I switched the pump off when we were going out of the house, etc. So when it ran out. But we phoned the guy a couple of times, or messaged him, said, is he back on yet? He didn't know. He'd gone into the office, he'd asked, and they weren't sure how long it would go. And it just came back on again. And I worked it out myself. I went outside, fiddled with the taps and switched the pump and everything off, and it was coming through one of the external tanks, and the tank was full again, so I knew it was back on. But no notification, no one knew. You know, people were everywhere where we lived, all the Filipinos were asking each other, is it back on? People didn't know, etc. So you just had chaos and confusion. Again, how hard would it be to make an announcement on a website or something? But that's the way it was, or is, with virtually everything over here. Now with the brownout was scheduled. We made plans. Lo and behold, 24 hours before the brownout, it was cancelled. Just like that, cancelled. They're no longer having it. They don't stick to plans over here. What was the consequence of this? Now you're going to say it's a whinge. Okay, it's a whinge. Too late to cancel the hotel. Ellen couldn't change her day off. So she had effectively lost a day's work, because the only reason she took it off was because she couldn't work if there wasn't any power, wasn't any internet. So she had wasted a day, lost it, because she still had to take a weekly day off a couple of days later. So it affected us, but it's not just us. It will have affected a number of people that live here, because the brownout was for the whole of Dumaguete. And again, you can say, well, if you had a generator, I get all that. I'm not complaining about the fact that there was a brownout, the fact that there was scheduled works. I'm complaining about the fact they do not stick to the plans here. that they'll schedule something and they will cancel it last minute. Now, I'm going to be very careful not to name any people here, but because this has happened a few times, this is not the first time it's happened. It is quite frequent for brownout to be announced, to be scheduled, and it changes at the last minute. Now, I embraced the brownout. Ellen went away. No, not the end of the world. She got to see her daughter and her family, so she had a good time. I went into the hotel anyway. I had a night out in Dumaguete, did a live stream, you know. It was a good night, a couple of nice meals, you know. It wasn't the end of the world, but the thing that's frustrating is when you get talking to people, because I was talking to a couple of guys in Sideways, and everyone seemed to know why the brownout had been cancelled. And as I say, I'm not going to name anyone here, but an important person, shall we say, was having a get-together or something, and it was inconvenient for them to have the brownout, so they told the electricity board not to do it. And I have heard this so many times, not from this particular person, but just people in general. They will schedule a brownout, and then someone in authority, not, you know, like a mayor or a senator or whatever, it will inconvenience their arrangements, so they'll tell them to not to do it, you know. And there will be countless people who have made arrangements. There will be countless people who will have taken days off and done whatever, or booked hotels, or, you know, whatever, just a day before it to be stopped. And it has been rescheduled now. It has been rescheduled for the 10th of August. Now, no idea if it's still going to go ahead on the 10th of August. You know, we could plan to go to Mobile or something, or not Mobile, you know what I mean? We could make arrangements to go somewhere, and it could be cancelled. You just don't know. Ellen could take time off work. It could be cancelled. Hopefully by then I'll have sorted out a generator. I'm going to get a solar system or something, and a UPS for the internet, because enough's enough. I mean, but that's my fault. I say I'm not complaining about that today. You know, it is what it is in the Philippines. You know, you need to know when you come here, the utilities, etc., the infrastructure in a lot of places is not great. You know, that's just a reality. People want to argue that fact. Well, you want to get your head a wobble. But what I do struggle with is, as I say, it's the almost disdain that companies seem to have for customers. You know, they just schedule something, then they change it. Classic example will be with the electricity company we've got here. When they do have brownouts, Ellen has to tell her work why she can't work. And sometimes they ask for proof, sometimes they don't. Now, how do you prove there is no power? Obviously, she's talking through a phone, you know, on a mobile or whatever. And one thing she's started to do, which they're happy with, is she will email the electricity company and say, we have no power, it's off. Can you please tell me why it's off, or when it will come back on? She forwards a copy to the office. They're happy with that. The point is, she has never had a reply, never had a response, not once, as to it's off because of this, or we're sorry, or whatever. Never. And when she sends it, she doesn't expect to get a response. She's just going through the motions. But, which is why I call it disdain. About a month ago, we never got an electricity bill. And what they usually do is they stick it on the gate, and it never came. And I said to Ellen, or Ellen said to me, they're gonna, how do we pay the bill? I said, well, we can't pay it if we don't have a bill. She said, well, they'll charge us because we've missed a month. I said, no, they won't. They can't, because how can we pay a bill if we haven't got it? So she said, well, it's just the way it works in the Philippines. I said, well, that's nonsense, don't have that. Email them and tell them we haven't had the bill. You know, so unless they can give us a bill and tell us what it is, we can't pay it, and we're not prepared to pay any late penalties or fees, because it's not our fault, because we haven't had a bill. And she's like, well, you can't do that. I said, well, of course you can do it. She said, but they won't respond. I said, well, they don't. The point is, we've done it. We've notified them of the fact that the bill, we haven't got a bill to pay. She did it, and within an hour there was a response. we got the bill. They just emailed it back. This is the bill. And I went and paid it. So amazing, isn't it? When it has something to do with not paying money on time or something like that, they will flick into action. But when it's something like a brownout or something where, you know, you need customer service to smooth the customers over, not a job. So if you come into the Philippines, the reason I'm making this video, you should be aware of that. It is a thing. And as I say, that it baffles me, because in a country where nearly a third of GDP is on customer service, the powers that be must be familiar with the concept. They must know, they must understand it. But they have no interest in it, which is why I say it's got to be disdain. They, you know, some countries, some cultures, you get it. They don't have the same view on customer service, etc. Can't use that argument in the Philippines. The only logical conclusion is they don't give a toss about the customers. They know that they're stuck with a limited choice of providers, or in some cases, only one provider. I mean, we've got a couple of internet choices. Our internet company's quite good, really. I think we use Phil Fibre. Don't have any complaints about them. They're pretty spot on. But the electricity company, I think there's only one choice. You know, so they know you are tied into them. The average Filipino can't do a damn thing about it. So why bother? Why bother to keep people informed? Why bother to stick to schedules? You know, it's like it'll lump it. But anyway, that's the way it is in the Philippines, but with services and things. It is frustrating, but not that frustrated enough to make me leave. Just one of those things. I was thinking of something to talk about on the Philippines. Always wary of making videos like this, because I don't want to create a negative impression. I don't want to come over as a whinging pom. Don't want to upset the powers that be when they're cracking down on vloggers. But I think some things need to be said and need to be talked about, because if I didn't talk about things like this, I think I would be being disingenuous about life in the Philippines. And if this video has triggered you, I would take a long look in the mirror and think, why has it bothered you? Because I am always incredibly careful on this channel and not to say something that isn't true, not to peddle fantasies, not to peddle bullshit, if you want to call it. You know, everything I've said is true. If you think that's a good thing, if you think it's a good thing that there's no customer service in the Philippines, or that providers treat their customers badly, then whack it in the comments. You're free. I mean, you put whatever you want in the bloody comments. But I do think, have a look in the mirror. You're really happy that you don't get notified about brownouts, that schedules get changed, that water can be switched off and no one's informed about it, and you've got no idea. You really think that's a good thing, and it's just the way it is, and if you don't like it, leave. And well, I don't know. I think you're past saving, to be honest with you, because I can't think of any universe where that is a good thing. And as I say, I get the infrastructure's bad. I don't have a problem with them scheduling you know, works to you know, repairs and things. I wish they would schedule more if they were genuinely going to improve the infrastructure. If they were genuinely going to make it better, they could switch it off for a month. You know, I'd go book an hotel, you know, but I don't know what work they do. But it doesn't seem to improve whatever they're doing. But either way, stick to the plan. If you're going to cancel it for whatever reason, don't do it the day before. Understand that people, and I'm not talking about just me, I'm talking about everyone here, will have made arrangements based around that. Whether it's just to like get the generator filled or whatever. You know, people have decided not to go here, people have changed days of work, etc, etc. You know, if they really are cancelling it, I say it's just a rumour I heard, but I can believe it, and I've heard it several times. If they really are cancelling it because one of the high ups finds it an inconvenience, and to hell with everyone else. Again, if you think that's okay, I'd give your head a shake, because I don't know in what universe that's acceptable. I don't know in what universe that's reasonable. Certainly not in a democracy. But there you go anyway. I've said my piece. I've got it off my chest. As I say, it's not overly frustrating. I had a great weekend. Well, not a great weekend, but I had an okay weekend. I'm glad I stayed in the hotel. It was nice to get out and meet a few people. It was nice to do an unscheduled live stream. Had some nice meals out. Ellen was a bit pissed off because she'd taken the time off unnecessarily, but she had a nice, visit back to her family, so life goes on. It's not really a whinge, this, although some... Anyway, that'll teach me for going on too long. My camera just overheated, which means I'm going to have to edit that now, which is a real pain. But there you go. Said my piece, got it off my chest. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, smash a like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fantastic if you did. But whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe and be lucky.